So you have a paper that says practice quiz mistakes. You can put your name at the top. There were a lot of fraction mistakes, and then we're going to practice some fractions even at the end because there are more fractions that will appear on your test review. So common mistakes, we'll start at number 1, dealt with fractions, reducing them, but also positives and negatives. So before we even start reducing this fraction, what is a negative divided by a negative? Makes a positive. Okay, so no matter what, my outcome will be positive. What can I divide 8 and 32 by? 8. Good job, yeah. My last class picked 2, and then 2 again, and then 2 again, and then 2 again. You can pick 8. What is 8 divided by 8? 1. And then 32 divided by 8?
4.
It's 4. That's it. That's all. It's not just 4, it is 1 over 4. Think about the difference. You got 8, which is smaller. It's on the top. 32 is bigger. It's on the bottom. 1 is smaller. It's on the top. 4 is bigger. It's on the bottom. That is the way it should end up. I saw a lot of people saying like 8 divided by 32 was 4. But that is not correct. Because if you ate 8 slices out of 32 slices, did you eat 4 whole pizzas? No, you ate 1/4 of all the pizzas. So keep that in mind when you reduce. This next one, 36 and negative 18. First of all, what is a positive divided by a negative? Negative. So our outcome will be negative no matter what. You can have it out in front. It doesn't matter where the negative is in the fraction, just that there's one negative. What can I divide both 36 and 18 by?
8.
Yes, you guys are smart. They're both divisible by 18. All right, what is 36 divided by 18? 2. And then 18 divided by 18. Yeah, negative 1. All right, so I have negative 2 over 1. Is this fully reduced?
No.
What is it fully reduced to?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. All right, something else I saw when we did our quizzes was multiplying, like distributing incorrectly. So let's distribute this 1/8. So we got 1/8 times x, which is 1/8 x. And then we have 1/8 times negative 16. You could put negative 16 over 1, and you just multiply straight across. What is 1 times negative 16? Negative 16, and 8 times 1 is 8. This reduces to negative 2. I would always double check your signs. You had a positive times a negative, which makes a negative. So make sure you're watching your signs as you do this. This next one we're going to distribute. We got negative 3/4 times x. And then we have negative 3/4 times 24. Again, put a whole number over 1. And just multiply straight across. What is it? Negative 3 times 24?
73.
And negative 72. And then 4 times 1?
4.
What is negative 72 divided by 4?
18.
Negative 18. So again, we had a negative times a positive, which makes a negative. So watch your sign. Negative times positive makes a negative. All right, our next one. We got negative 2 over 3x. And then negative 2 over 3 times negative 18. Again, put your whole number over 1. And then just multiply straight across. Negative 2 times negative 18 is 36. And then 3 times 1? 3. And this reduces to 12. And will it be positive or negative? Positive. We multiplied a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. So you really want to make sure you watch your signs. This is what we would have distributed. Questions on this section? Okay. This next one, we're finding the slope and then the parallel slope and the perpendicular slope. What does an equation of line need to look like to know the slope? Y equals mx plus b, which is called slope-intercept form. Which of these letters, y, m, x, or b, represent the slope? M. Notice how we didn't say mx, it's just m. Whatever number is in front of x, but it has to be written like this to just look at it and decide what the slope is. So this first one, is it written to where I can figure out the slope? It is not written to where I can figure out the slope. We need to make it look like that. So we need to solve for y equals mx plus b. What am I going to move first? Subtract 2x. So we got 8y on the left. Can I subtract a letter from a number? Cannot. So I just write them next to each other. Like this. Negative 2x plus 34. Because remember, I want y equals mx plus b. So how do I get y by itself? Divide by 8. Divide each of them by 8. What is negative 2 over 8 reduced to? Negative 1 over 4. And then 34 and 8, what are they both divisible by? 2. So divide them both by 2. Oop. What is 34 divided by 2? 17. And then 18 divided by 2? 4. So what part of this is the slope? Negative 1 over 4. So it says, what is the slope? It's negative 1 over 4. Not the whole thing. My slope is negative 1 over 4. In fact, I'm going to write it that way. This was one of the questions on the quiz. Like, not the exact numbers, but it was like this. And then what will be parallel to negative 1 over 4? Negative 1 over 4. And then what is perpendicular to negative 1 over 4? 4. So remember that parallel is the same slope. So they're the same number, negative 1 over 4. Perpendicular is the opposite sign. So our original slope was negative. Perpendicular was positive. And then you flip it. All right, our last question. Is it written in y equals mx plus b to be able to figure out the slope? It is not. So a lot of my students don't prefer it to look like this. You can just flip all of it, meaning this is called the symmetric property. We took the right side and put it on the left side, so y could be on the left. We took the left side and put it on the right side. So all I did was flip it. I didn't do any math. So then what do I do to solve for y equals mx plus b? Divide by negative 8. All right, what's a negative divided by a negative? A positive. And what does 10 over 8 reduce to? 5 over 4. X. And then what does 4 over negative 8 reduce to? Negative 1/2. So again, what is my slope here? 5 over 4. So my slope is 5 over 4. So parallel slopes are the same, right? I don't know what just happened. So what is my parallel slope? 5 over 4. And then perpendicular, negative 4 over 5. Opposite sign, and you flip it. All right, here are our last ones. We want to write an equation of the line. This first one, we want parallel. So again, parallel, we want our slopes to be the same slope. So is this equation of the original line, is it written to where I can look at it and find the slope? It is not. It needs to be y equals mx plus b to find the slope. So what do I need to do first to put it in y equals mx plus b? Subtract 5x. Oops. On both sides. We got negative 10y equals. Can I subtract x from a number? Cannot. Minus 5x plus 3. All right, my last step to Solve for y equals mx plus b.
Divided by negative.
Divided by -10. So when I do that, I have y equals. So I have -5 divided by -10, which is 1/2. So 5 out of 10 is a half. All right, and then does 10 go into 3? It does not, but we can just simplify the signs. What is a positive divided by a negative? Negative. So of this, we just needed to know the slope. What is the slope of our original line? 1/2. What is parallel to 1/2? 1/2. So our slope will be 1/2, and then we have this point. So we're going to plug our slope and our point into point slope formula. I picked this one because we're going to have fractions and we're going to work on them together. What is my y coordinate? 11. And then we said our slope, 1/2. And then our x coordinate is going to be -9. And when I plug in -9, there's already a negative there. So make it a plus. We will distribute. We got 1/2 x. Off to the side, you can multiply 1/2 times 9. So remember, when we're multiplying a fraction by a whole number, put the whole number over 1, and then just multiply straight across. 1 times 9 is 9, and then 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 9, 2 times 1. Does this reduce? It does not. So I'm going to put it over here. We multiplied a positive times a positive, so this should be a positive. Are we all okay with multiplying? All right, my next step, we're going to add 11. So instead of writing it like this, because this will not be helpful, I'm going to write the 11 off to the side, because if you remember, you can't add fractions unless they have the same denominator. What denominator does 11 have? 1. They need to have the same denominator, and we're going to make them have the same denominator while keeping the value of 11. So what denominator do I want? Both, because we're trying to combine these numbers, right? These are two numbers. What denominator do I want them both to have? A 2. This first fraction already has a denominator of 2. So this second one, we need to make it have a denominator of 2. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Why do we do that, Miss Marshall? I will show you. When we do this, what is 11 times 2? 22. And then 1 times 2 is 2. Did I change the value of the number 11? What is 22 divided by 2? It's 11. So all I did was make it to where I could actually add them together. So whenever you have like denominators, like we do now, I'm going to leave the y equals and the 1/2 x. We're leaving them alone. There's nothing else to simplify for them. But we can combine these. They both have a denominator of 2. So you add the top and you keep the bottom. So here's what that looks like. What is plus 9 plus 22? Plus 31. And then you keep the denominator. It will still be a 2. So 9 over 2 plus 22 over 2 is 31 over 2. You can always think back. I don't know if any of you bake or if any of you are in home ec. But if you take a third cup and you add a third cup, you have 2/3 cups because you add the top and the bottom still stays a third. All right. So, to recap. If you want to write a note, maybe you want to write it on the back. I don't know. When you multiply fractions, do you need like denominators? No. You can write don't need like denominators. You just multiply, right? You multiply the tops together, you multiply the bottoms together. I'll let you write this down here for a second. When you multiply fractions, you do not need like denominators. So if I want to multiply 1/3 times 4 over 7, I can multiply them. I don't need like denominators. I could just multiply straight across. Like 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 times 7 is 21. But if I want to add, or subtract, you need like denominators. So like if I had 1/3 plus 1/2, could I add them as they are? I could not. They would have to have the same denominator. It'd be a whole process. Okay? So you would need like denominators. Think of it like, can I multiply 2x times y? Think back to algebra for a second. Would I be able to multiply these two together? I can't? I can multiply them together. This would make 2xy. Could I add them together? I cannot. They're not like terms. So it's the same rule with fractions. You can multiply like normal, no need to have the same denominator, but when it comes to adding and subtracting, you have to have the same denominator. All right, let's move on to the second question. I'm not going to rewrite the formula 8 times. I'm just going to write all my work on this side because it's just easier that way. Is the original equation written where I can figure out the slope? Y equals 5x minus 3. Is it written in y equals mx plus b? It is. What is the original slope? 5. So what is perpendicular? Because that's what it says. What is perpendicular to 5? Negative 1 over 5, right? It went from a positive to a negative, and then you flipped it using that understood 1. So we're going to use negative 1/5 as our slope, and we're going to use our point into point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what is my y coordinate? 7. And then we said our perpendicular slope is negative 1 over 5. And then my x coordinate, 4. So we got negative 1/5 x, and then negative 1/5 times negative 4. What does it make? Multiply straight across. 1 times negative 1 times negative 4 is 4. And 5 times 1 is 5. Right? 1 times 4, we got our numerator. 1 times 4, we got 4. 5 times 1, you get 5. All right, we have a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. All right, what do I do next to solve for y equals mx plus b? Add 7. So we got y equals negative 1/5 x. Again, do they have like denominators? They do not. What's the denominator of 7? 1. So what do I want both of them to have a denominator of to combine them? A 5. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 5. Mike, did you already answer this? All right, so I'm going to drop down my 4/5. What is 7 times 5? 35. And then 1 times 5 is 5. So again, 35 over 5, it's still 7. It just looks different to where now we can combine them. So we're going to do that. So y equals negative 1/5 x. I still haven't done anything there. We're going to combine our two numbers. So add the top. What is plus 4 plus 35? Plus 39. and then you keep the denominator. It is still a 5. All right, one more. Is this written in y equals mx plus b?
No.
It is not. What do I need to do to make it in y equals mx plus b? Divide by 3. So divide each of them by 3. So doing this, what is the slope of our original line here?
2 over 3.
Yeah, it is 2 over 3. So what is perpendicular to 2 over 3?
Negative 3 over 2.
Negative 3 over 2. Change from a positive to a negative, and then we flipped it. So we're going to use this as our slope, and then use our points in point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So my y coordinate is negative 2, which will become a plus when I plug in that negative. And then our perpendicular slope, negative 3 over 2. And then our x coordinate, 3. So we got y plus 2 equals negative 3 over 2x. Then again, negative 3 over 2 times negative 3. You can put it over 1. Multiply the top, so what's negative 3 times negative 3? 9. And then 2 times 1 is 2. It was a negative times a negative, which makes positive. My last step, going to subtract 2. So y equals negative 3 over 2x. To combine these, they need to have the same denominator. What denominator do I want them both to have? 2. So what will 2 over 1 turn into if I multiply times 2? What is it? 4 over 2. All right, so now we just combine the tops. So we got plus 9 minus 4, which makes,
5.
yes, is it a positive or a negative 5?
Positive.
Positive, because 9 was bigger. And then over 2.